This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Friday, May. No, it's not Friday. Oh, my God. It is Monday. Get it straight. Hold on a second. Let me slap myself. There we go. It is Monday, April. See, look at that. Hold on a second. Now I got to really slap myself. What's this news hour going to be like if I can't even get the day straight? It is Monday, May 5th.
Wake up!
Yeah, wake up is right. You're right, Lou. Wake up is right. I've been awake for hours, but you wouldn't know it. All right. It is May 5th, and it's Monday. Oh, my God. Okay, here's your forecast. I think I have Monday's forecast here. Cloudy, pop-up showers today, high 63. Tonight and overnight, showers, low 59. And then Tuesday, which I think is tomorrow, thunderstorms in the morning, showers in the afternoon, high 65. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it is 60 and cloudy in Nyack up in Rockland County. It's 57 and cloudy in Asbury Park over in New Jersey. And it's 60 and misty right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Cardinal Dolan says he's ready to pick a new pope. NYPD says it's going after reckless bicyclists. The search continues for a Nassau County man who's been missing for 10 days. The fight over a homeless shelter in Brooklyn gets bigger. And what's with all the dead cats on Long Island? All right, let's get into it at 5:01. There continues to be delays at Newark Airport. They've reached hours on end yesterday. On average, departures were delayed for about 133 minutes yesterday morning. This is all due to the flight tracker program. There's issues with the runway that they're just doing construction on. And what it just means is it's a total nightmare for anybody, or for a lot of people anyway, trying to fly into or out of Newark Airport. And this is going on, it's about 5 days now.
So now we have to stay over at a hotel and fly out at like the crack of dawn at 5:30 tomorrow morning. So we are trying to keep a positive attitude. There's worse things in life, but we went through the same thing on the outbound flight. I don't know how you can operate. This is such a major airport.
Yeah, she's right about that. On Friday, United Airlines announced it would cancel 35 round-trip flights per day out of Newark. I think that is still in place, at least last time we looked, as of today. And the issue is that there's flights, United has their biggest hub in the United States at Newark. And so they can't really run a great operation knowing that so many of these flights are delayed every day.
We kind of came in having no idea what was happening, but it looks like everyone's getting hit by it.
Give me a flight at 7 p.m. for tomorrow, but we're trying to change it, and they give it us. They give it 1 to 7 a.m.
Can you
in the
imagine
morning.
you waited all year to go on vacation and then you got to deal with this nonsense? The FAA blaming staffing shortages for some of the hefty delays. This is the agency has announced an air traffic controller recruitment program in an effort to deal with the problem. But why didn't they have this in place before?
What's today? Friday? I don't know what date it is.
No. Yeah, look at that. Somebody who didn't know the day either. So.
To here, overnight hotel. Now we're here for another 6 hours, and that flight was delayed. So let's hope we get out tonight.
So over the weekend, you had Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy saying his agency's taking action to solve the continuing flight delays at Newark. He said Philadelphia's TRACON system, which manages airspace around Newark Airport, needs to be replaced.
We've seen the system go down multiple times, and the consequence of that is we've seen massive delays in Newark. We've seen delayed flights. We've seen canceled flights.
So here it is. It's May 5th, right before the summer travel season begins, and they really got to get this right so people can get on vacation.
The system that we're using is not effective to control the traffic that we have in the airspace today.
We it's great. We hear from you. We just want you to figure it out. Get it done. That's really what anybody who's heading to Newark Airport today wants to know, is that the problem's going to be fixed. 504, Nassau County Police investigating after a speeding car crashed into a house in Hicksville.
It happened just before 4:30 Saturday afternoon. ABC7 reports an 82-year-old woman driving a Mercedes on Bethpage Road went off the road and crashed through a wall of the house on West Street. The 56-year-old homeowner, who was home at the time sitting in the living room, was showered with debris but not seriously hurt. Neighbors got her out through a window. The driver was taken to the hospital for treatment of minor injuries. I'm Larry Kofsky, NBC News Radio.
So yesterday marked the end of a formal mourning period in the Catholic Church for Pope Francis.
The 9 days of mourning began with the Pope's funeral in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican. The conclave to pick a successor will begin on Wednesday, May 7th. That's when a group of about 135 cardinals, many of them appointed by Pope Francis, will meet behind closed doors in the Sistine Chapel to begin the ritual used to determine the next pope. Cardinals will cast ballots for candidates of their choice until one of them receives a 2/3 majority. I'm Lisa Carton.
And there are more signs today that the Catholic Church is moving closer to selecting that new pope. Correspondent Ann Thompson reports that Vatican firefighters installed that chimney on the roof of the Sistine Chapel where the closed-door process called a conclave will occur.
That is where the world will focus its attention to see what kind of smoke comes out of that chimney. Black smoke means no pope. White smoke means someone got 2/3 of the ballots and has said yes to being the leader of the Catholic Church.
I find this all fascinating. My guess is that you probably do, too. Cardinals under the age of 80 eligible to vote. The correspondent Thompson reports that during the pre-conclave discussion, cardinals are focusing on 3 major issues as they try to pick the next leader of the Catholic Church.
1 is the precarious state of Vatican finances. 2 is clarity in religious doctrine. And 3 is continuity in the message of mercy that Pope Francis expressed during his papacy.
No cell phones, no cameras, anything will be allowed, as always, inside the Sistine Chapel. So it is these 133 voting cardinals who get to cast their ballots each time, and they keep casting the ballot until they finally come to an agreement on one person.
They have to write their candidate out on their ballot by hand, fold the ballot, and then walk it up to the front of the Sistine Chapel, swear an oath, and drop it in an urn.
Yeah, so we'll all be watching to see what smoke comes out of that chimney, and it all begins on Wednesday. WABC News Time 5:08. The battle over President Trump's 2026 fiscal year budget proposal get underway in a serious way this week. Republican House Budget Committee Chair Jody Arrington, he's from Texas, says we can address the massive deficit by cutting wasteful spending in Medicaid.
We can save over $1.5 trillion without touching a dime of the benefit funding.
Arrington, who was on Fox News Sunday yesterday, says that Republicans have to stick together, not let Democrats scare voters into thinking they want to gut social services.
Will we be susceptible to the fear-mongering and the false rhetoric? And this is the same tired play they run.
And yesterday, President Trump making news on a whole bunch of different levels. He sat down for a long-form interview with NBC's Meet the Press. He says that we could see a possible short-term recession due to the tariffs if it means creating the strongest U.S. economy ever. He was asked that question on Meet the Press.
Look, everything's okay. What we are, I said, this is a transition period. I think we're going to do fantastically.
And the president insists any short-term pain will far outweigh his long-term goals. He says tariffs will bring manufacturing back to the U.S., and that means more jobs and a stronger economy. He was challenged, though, that some economists are warning of a recession due to the tariffs. Here's what he had to say.
Well, you say some people on Wall Street say, well, I can tell you something else. Some people on Wall Street say that we're going to have the greatest economy in history.
President Trump calling for a 100% tariff on films produced outside of America and imported into the United States. He took to Truth Social yesterday to announce that he instructed the Department of Commerce and the U.S. Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting the tariffs. He says, we want to make movies made in America again, so it'll affect even motion pictures. Then there's this story that the global tariffs may mean fewer toys under the Christmas tree this year.
The Grinch! I must stop this Christmas from coming!
The CEO of the Toy Association told the New York Times earlier this week that because of tariffs, the industry is facing a frozen supply chain that is putting Christmas at risk. On Wednesday, President Trump appeared to acknowledge that there may be a toy shortage this year. He told reporters after a cabinet meeting,
maybe the children will have 2 dolls instead of 30 dolls, and maybe the 2 dolls will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
Trump has argued that higher tariffs will force manufacturers to produce more goods in the U.S. I'm Michael Kastner.
And President Trump talking about his deportation plans during this interview with Meet the Press. He said the plan should not be clashing at all with the courts.
Some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
He was talking about discussing the status of Kilmar Abrego Garcia on Meet the Press. Garcia deported to El Salvador, and what the White House had initially said was an administrative error, but since has said he's a member of MS-13.
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said.
Now, the president was asked if he has the power to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to his home in Maryland.
Well, I have the power to ask for him to come back if I'm instructed by the Attorney General that it's legal to do so. But the decision as to whether or not he should come back will be the head of El Salvador. He's a very capable man.
And NBC Meet the Press, they were asking him about his plans to run for a third term. So he was asked about his organization, the website selling 2028 gear. And he says, look, I'm not really going to run for a third term.
There are many people selling the 2028 hat, but this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years.
Now, so he says he has a lot of good Republicans that could be president in 2028. He mentioned VP J.D. Vance, but he says he's not endorsing anyone at this time. He talked about some other members of his cabinet as well.
So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that, but it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do.
And President Trump says he'll hold a big military parade in D.C. He was asked about this during Meet the Press on Flag Day, which is June 14th.
Peanuts compared to the value of doing it.
So they're talking about the potential cost of throwing that parade. The parade is in honor of Flag Day, which falls on Trump's birthday. Defense officials say the parade comes with a hefty price tag, estimated as high as $45 million. But President Trump says they're going to figure it out.
We have the greatest missiles in the world. We have the greatest submarines in the world. We have the greatest army tanks in the world. We have the greatest weapons in the world. And we're going to celebrate it.
All right. And the one that a lot of Americans are worried about, what is it, 170 million Americans look at TikTok every single day, and they keep extending this deadline to get rid of TikTok, and now it's going to be extended again.
The China-based company ByteDance that owns TikTok was ordered to sell the company to a U.S. backer or be shut down in the States.
Perhaps I shouldn't say this, but I have a little warm spot in my heart for TikTok.
He told NBC's Meet the Press that the app helped him win over young voters in the 2024 presidential election. At least 170 million Americans use TikTok. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
514, Mike Walls will face a tough confirmation hearing to become U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. That's what Virginia Democratic Senator Mark Warner telling CNN State of the Union yesterday.
I think it will be a brutal confirmation hearing.
Walls, of course, faced scrutiny for mistakenly adding a reporter to a Signal group chat that discussed plans for a military strike in his former role as national security advisor. President Trump said that in the interim, Secretary of State Marco Rubio will serve as national security advisor while continuing, he says, a strong leadership at the State Department. But Virginia Democratic Senator Mark Warner says he's watching this all play out.
Waltz at least acknowledged a bit of a mistake. I think he's going to have tough questions, not only from Democrats, but from Republicans.
Yeah. 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Welcome back, and good morning, Justin Ella.
Thank you, Noam Layden. Good to be back. Long travel day yesterday, but, all recuperated for the most part. Start here on the Diamond in the Bronx. Yankees lost 7-5 in their finale with the Tampa Bay Rays dropping the 3-game series as well in the process. Aaron Judge hitting the big league high 423, doubled to extend his on-base streak to 30 games. Cody Bellinger hit his 200th homer, a 2-run drive in the 6th with the Yankees trailing 5-0, and Yorbit Vivas had a 2-run single in a 3-run 8th for his first big league hit. Will Warren dropped to 0-2 in his last 4 starts, giving up 5 runs, 3 earned, 7 hits, and 3 walks with 8 strikeouts in 4 2/3 innings of work. New York lost for the 3rd time in 4 games. Shortstop Oswaldo Peraza and catcher J.C. Escara made errors, and left fielder Jason Dominguez allowed a catchable fly ball to drop behind him for a double, so a sloppy Sunday for the Yanks. Up next for them, Carlos Rodon gets a start in tonight's series opener against the visiting San Diego Padres. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from the Bronx. In St. Louis, the Mets dropped their finale and weekend series as well, losing 5-4 in yesterday's rubber game against the Cardinals. Brandon Nimmo ripped an RBI double along with the pair that Pete Alonso registered as well. Francisco Lindor added 3 RBI for the Mets, and Jesse Winker tacked on a ribby to boot en route to the loss. Up next for the Metsies, they remain on the road, heading to Arizona to open a 3-game series against the Diamondbacks. Looking ahead to the hardwood tonight at 7 p.m. out in Boston. The Knicks, they obviously moved on. They will get the Celtics in the second round, obviously, and that series will get going. This second round Eastern Conference playoff series tonight from Boston, 7 p.m. Pretty much the one we've all been waiting for. And to the NFL here, lastly, 1 week after.
Can they pull off even one game, you think?
Of course, yeah.
What do you think, 4-1?
4-1, 3-2. Yeah, 4-1, 4-2. Why not?
Maybe 2 games?
Yeah, I don't see why you can't win at home here. You don't think so?
No.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Boy, have you watched Boston? They're good.
They're really good. Yeah. And the Mets, or not the Mets, the Knicks against in that first round against the Pistons, they had some shaky play. Obviously, they finished the job, but those were some nail biters down the stretch. And of course, I was in Israel for that Jalen Brunson game winner, but that was something insane. But again, you take it down to the wire in pretty much every game against the Pistons. How do you think you're going to do against a team that's head and shoulders above them?
Exactly.
So we shall see. And then 1 week agreeing to a deal to lure the Washington Commanders back into the city. Noam Layden, the District of Columbia, received more good news. It will host the 2027 NFL Draft. A source familiar with the situation confirmed on ESPN yesterday. An official announcement is expected at the White House on today. The draft is expected to be held on the National Mall, where the Washington Monument stands, of course. Axios first reported the news. Exciting stuff there. That's your sports Noam Layden. I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 520. Canada's newly elected Prime Minister, Mark Carney, says he'll make a visit to the White House tomorrow for a meeting with President Trump.
The meeting comes in the wake of tariffs Trump has imposed on Canada and the president's proposal for the nation to merge with the U.S. During a news conference Friday, Carney said he will fight for the best deal for Canada and only accept the best deal. The Prime Minister also noted he had a call with Trump on Wednesday, which he described as very constructive and said it could bring about a potential trade deal. I'm Brian Shook.
WABC News Time 521. Federal officials working on a new migrant database that's called Immigration OS.
Officials say the system will track and target millions living illegally in the U.S. A $30 million contract with Palantir Technologies will help Immigrations and Customs Enforcement build a system they say will prioritize those considered for deportation. The Denver-based company currently runs the ICE system used for Homeland Security investigations, and the new operating system will combine data from several databases from the government and private sources. The contract calls for the rollout of a prototype this fall. I'm Scott Carr in Washington.
521, let's go down to Florida. The victims of the Florida State University mass shooting remembered during the school's commencement ceremony.
Just over 2 weeks ago, a tragic act of violence struck our campus. We lost Robert Morales, a dedicated FSU employee. Tiru Chaba, a visitor from South Carolina.
University President Richard McCullough speaking about the two men who were killed, adding it was a tough day in the history of FSU. 6 others were injured in that April 17th shooting when a 20-year-old student opened fire on campus.
Multiple people were injured and many more were deeply shaken. It was a tough day in the history of Florida State University.
McCullough saying those shooting victims have shown great resilience.
Their attitudes and willingness to pick themselves up and go on was inspiring to me.
While we're down in Florida, the National Weather Service marking National Hurricane Preparedness Week, meteorologist Robert Garcia says the season kicks off next month, so now's the time to start getting a hurricane kit together.
Start looking at all of those little items that you know you'll need, but are always waiting to get. They're all in stock now, so a great time to get your hurricane preparedness checklist out. Good time of year to make sure that your insurance policies are up to snuff, that you're comfortable with everything, you know what the documents are. Take pictures of your belongings.
Garcia says this year storm surge guidance will be available 72 hours in advance of a storm as opposed to what it was before 42 hours.
We're also looking at the extension of the hurricane wind field forecast out in time a little bit more as well to match that 72-hour period.
523. Billionaire Warren Buffett plans to step down as CEO of Berkshire Hathaway at the end of the year.
The legendary 94-year-old investment wizard announced his retirement Saturday at the company's annual shareholder meeting in Omaha. Buffett owns more than $160 billion in Berkshire and says he won't sell a single share after he retires. Saturday's announcement came as a surprise to shareholders. Buffett, known as the Oracle of Omaha, is recommending Greg Abel to fill his shoes. I'm Jim Forbes.
Target stores adopting a new self-checkout policy given the recent surge in shoplifting. The retailer announcing over the weekend it's now limiting self-checkout to shoppers with 10 or less items. The company also said it's expanding its staffed checkouts to improve efficiency, so it just doesn't work for them. Target says pilot tests show the new policy improves speed and customer satisfaction at the stores where it was tried out. Americans being urged to pay attention to their mental health this month.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month, which has been observed in the U.S. since 1949. A leading doctor in the U.S., Dr. Jen Bruhl of the American Academy of Family Physicians, is urging people to find healthy ways to cope with stress. Experts recommend having a healthy work-life balance and finding a support system to avoid social isolation. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
525. Prince Harry says he's been cut off from his father, King Charles. In an interview with the BBC, Harry confirmed a strained relationship with the family now.
I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff.
Yeah, the security stuff he's referring to is Britain High Court ruling against him having full-time security protection. Harry's protection was downgraded in 2020 when he stepped down from the royal family and moved to California with his wife, Meghan Markle. Harry says the rift with his family began after they tried to keep us under one roof, and he says he's now seeking reconciliation, but sounds like it might be too late.
Of course, some members of my family will never forgive me for writing a book. Of course, they will never forgive me for lots of things.
Now, you remember in the book he said some nasty stuff, so maybe not surprising to hear some family members don't want to have much to do with it.
So it would be nice to have that reconciliation part now. If they don't want that, that's entirely up to them.
Now, he does say he wants the reconciliation because he's worried most about his father, of course, who's battling cancer. 526. Shark Ninja is recalling over 1 million pressure cookers after reports of burn injuries that have resulted in more than 24 lawsuits now.
There have been 106 reports of burn injuries. The recall notice said the pressure cooker's lid can be opened while in use, allowing hot contents to escape, creating a burn risk to consumers. The recall is for the Shark Ninja Foodie OP300 series multifunction pressure cooker. It also includes OP300 series replacement lids purchased as an extra part. I'm Lisa Carton.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5:34. Good morning. It is Monday, May 5th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Oh, it's Cinco de Mayo. I just thought of that. May 5th. Yeah, Cinco, 5th of May. There you go. Cloudy, pop-up showers today. High 63 tonight and overnight showers. Low 59. And then Tuesday, thunderstorms in the morning, showers in the afternoon. High 65 if you are walking out the door with us right now. So happy you are. It's 60 cloudy in Nyack up in Rockland County. It's 57 and cloudy in Asbury Park over in New Jersey. And it's 60 and misty right outside our Midtown studios. We'll start this half hour here in the big city. Panic buttons soon going to be installed in about 500 bodegas around the city, offering workers long-sought safety tools. Yesterday, Mayor Adams announcing a $1.6 million will be set aside for what's called Silent Shield technology, which is the name of these panic buttons that will be deployed in about 500 bodegas across the city.
When you do the combination, it's going to give you access to the cameras in the store to see what is taking place and how we can get an immediate response.
United Bodegas of America spokesman Fernando Mateo, who's been pushing for this for a long time, elated that he says this life-saving technology that he's championed is finally coming to some bodegas.
Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. The money's being allocated. We will ask the mayor to try to find it from discretionary funds so that we can start tomorrow. There's no reason why we can't start tomorrow.
The move comes after a series of recent violent incidents, some of them deadly, inside bodegas across the 5 boroughs. Remember that one we told you about in Bed-Stuy last week? I think it was over the weekend, so a week ago now. These guys walked into a bodega. This was Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, dressed up as NYPD cops, and they roughed up workers and robbed them. Last month, 2 employees huddled in the corner of an Inwood bodega as a knife fight broke out right in front of them. A 24-year-old was killed there. So these workers say, we would like these panic buttons. Maybe it'll save some lives.
People got shot, killed. Sometimes you got robbed, and the police never responds quick. They always come like 3 or 4 hours late.
So the bodega panic buttons will be in 500 bodegas. They're not announcing where, because for obvious reasons, but they'll start instituting them as soon as today. WABC News Time, 5:39. Let's go out to Long Beach, Long Island. Community members continue looking for a missing Nassau County legislature candidate. Petros Kremidas has been missing now 10 days. Volunteers, first responders gathering to comb through Atlantic Beach and the surrounding area for the missing 29-year-old. Some handed out flyers while others walked sections of the 9-mile beach looking for him yesterday.
I'm friends with his family, and it's been 9 days of heartbreak and searching and trying to find a beloved son, friend, brother.
Kremidas believed to have parked his car at the Allegra Hotel in Long Beach. This was the night of April 23rd. He walked on the beach to exercise. His mother says he had been training for a triathlon. His family reported him missing the next day because he didn't respond to texts, which is very unlike him. Police later found his belongings, including his towel, clothes, and phone, on the beach. Here's Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, who was taking part in this search over the weekend as well.
We are working on parallel tracks. Track number 1 is that Petey's still alive, and we're looking for information about his whereabouts. Track number 2 is if he did have a tragic accident, that we can recover the body and make sure that the family is comforted with knowing that they'll be able to provide a proper funeral.
The 29-year-old was running for county legislators, a Democrat, considered really a rising star among Democrats in Nassau County. Those who knew him say he's not only didn't he have a bright future, but he was just a genuinely kind individual.
He is the nicest person you're ever going to meet. He's community-driven, community-minded. He will do anything to help anybody. He's the sweetest person. The best way I used to call him my little brother.
Very bright, very family-oriented, very sweet, very get the shirt off his back for anybody.
Volunteers will be back out on the beach again today. 541, let's bring it back here into the city. The New York City Council considering banning pedicabs right around Broadway theater exits and entrances. This new bill would prevent pedicabs to operate within 50 feet of the theater. People have been complaining for years about the pedicabs blasting music loudly, which apparently disrupts some of these performances, and they sometimes harass theater goers as they come out of the theater. So the bill introduced by council members Keith Powers and Eric Botcher, they say the bill, if passed, would help provide relief to some of these theaters. Now, the bill has the support of the Times Square's Alliance, whose president thanked the council members for pushing the legislation forward to control what they call the chaos of the pedicab industry that plagues theater goers. Now, if they could ban them from the streets, too, because they get in my way. Those guys, they ride slowly, and the music's so loud, it does feel a little bit dangerous out there sometimes. 542, out to the Upper West Side. This vicious dog attack. This showed up in my TikTok feed over the weekend. It was hard to watch. In fact, I actually didn't really watch all of it. But this vicious dog attack, it was a Chihuahua who was being mauled by what looked to be a pit bull. And the woman who owns this Chihuahua says the attack came out of nowhere, and they tried to get the dog off this Chihuahua. It took a while.
Obviously negligent. Like, it's clear that these dogs are a problem, and I was able to get the cane in its mouth to get it to open up.
Yeah, so they finally got the jaws off of this Chihuahua. This was 86 and Columbus Avenue, and it was one of these large muscular dogs with jaws that just latched onto this poor little dog named Penny, who weighs about 16 pounds. And thank God the dog is going to survive. I mean, they had to do a lot of work on it to make sure that happened. And here's the woman who owns this Chihuahua. She says the part that upset her the most, of course, was that her dog was attacked. But second part was that the people who own the dog that attacked her Chihuahua, they just walked away. And the NYPD says there's not much they can do to go after these people because it was an animal attacking another animal.
I saw the video once and I can't watch it again. So basically, the only thing I can do is maybe sue this man in civil court, and I could possibly try and get the dogs declared dangerous and taken away. It's very difficult to find people that care enough about a dog to help, which is crazy. But I just really hope that they care about this dog because she's really the best dog.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much you can do, by the way. I know when I see these dogs, these big muscular dogs, usually they're jerks that are holding onto their leashes. Sometimes they're chains around their neck. And, you know, I just crossed the other side of the street because I have a 19-pound dog. And if that dog were to attack my dog, I might kill the pet owner. But it is, you feel bad when you see these stories because thankfully in this case, it looks like this dog will survive, but nothing going to happen to that dog owner who just walked away. How do you not ask, hey, can I help out? Can I pay for the medical bills? But no, they just went along their way. Out on Long Island, another animal story. An animal rescue volunteer says 61 cats are in a mobile unit at the Islip Animal Shelter, rescued from a house in Bohemia over the weekend, where 28 cats were found dead. 24 were found dead in the freezer of this home on Westminster Drive. John DeBacker is with the Long Island Cat Solution Group, and he says he was asked by Suffolk police to help round up the cats that were both dead and alive, and so he came in and did so.
I heard there was at least 24 deceased cats in the freezer, and then we found 2 deceased kittens in the box spring.
Yeah, DeBacker says the conditions inside this house in Bohemia are horrible. Feces, urine all over the floor. In fact, they just came in and they condemned the home, and they told the homeowner you can't go back in.
It's horrific, like how someone can let it get this bad. Like, people need to start spaying and neutering the pets. It pretty much probably started with 2 cats, and they just kept reproducing in the house. And eventually it just became to be too overwhelming. Yeah, Suffolk County SPCA has estimated $10,000 will be needed for veterinary bills to nurse these cats back to health.
All right, 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noah Maladen. Start here on the Diamond in the Bronx. Yankees lost 7-5 in their finale with the Rays, dropping the 3-game series as well in the process. Aaron Judge hitting a big league high 423 double to extend his on-base streak to 30 games. Cody Bellinger hit his 200th homer, a 2-run drive in the 6th with the Yankees trailing 5-0. And Yorbert Vivas had a 2-run single in a 3-run 8th for his first big league hit. Will Warren dropped to 0-2 in his last 4 starts, giving up 5 runs, 3 earned, 7 hits, and 3 walks with 8 strikeouts and 4 2/3 innings of work. New York lost for the 3rd time in 4 games. Shortstop Oswald Peraza and catcher J.C. Escarra made errors, and left fielder Jason Dominguez allowed a catchable fly ball to drop behind him for a double and a sloppy Sunday loss for the Yanks. Up next for them, Carlos Rodon gets a start in tonight's series opener against visiting San Diego Padres. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from the Bronx. In St. Louis, the Mets dropped their finale and weekend series as well, losing 5-4 in yesterday's rubber game against the Cardinals. Brandon Nimmo ripped an RBI double along with the pair that Pete Alonso also registered. Francisco Lindor added 3 RBI for the Mets as well. Jesse Winker tacked on a ribby to boot and wrapped to the loss. Up next for the Mets, they remain on the road, heading to Arizona to open a 3-game series against the Diamondbacks. And to the hardwood here, we're looking ahead to a 7 p.m. tip-off tonight from Boston. The Knicks and Celtics getting their Eastern Conference second-round playoff series underway. Of course, after the Knicks passed by the Detroit Pistons last week and over the weekend, they will now try their luck with the 1-seed not the 1-seed Celtics, but the 2-seed Boston Celtics there in the East. To the NFL 1 week after agreeing to a deal to lure the Washington Commanders back into the city, D.C. received more good news. Will host the 2027 NFL Draft. A source familiar with the situation confirmed to ESPN yesterday. An official announcement is expected at the White House today. The draft is expected to be held on the National Mall, where the Washington Monument stands. Axios first reported the news there. That is your Sports Now, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Let's go out to Bay Shore, Long Island. 47-year-old man stabbed to death outside the Bay Shore train station over the weekend. Neighbors say they see violent incidents happen here every once in a while.
The woman was screaming and yelling at the man to get up.
Heard a lot of screaming, and then next thing you knew, there was like a 9-10 police officers outside. It's a lot of activity. And I guess last night it came to a head.
Police say the victim was homeless, identified as Chervelle Rush. Not clear what led to the stabbing. We don't know any word of any arrests, not as of yet anyway.
I love this place. I love the apartment, but it's not safe. It's just not nice to feel like all of that is happening right outside of our front door.
Police have not detailed a motive for the crime. Again, they have not made any arrests. The debate over a planned homeless shelter in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, intensifying over the weekend. These guys have been out there for a while now trying to stop this homeless shelter. In fact, Curtis Lewa, who is running for mayor, and of course is our own 77 WABC Curtis Lewa, you're going to hear in an hour from now, has been part of these protests. Demonstrators say they were told by the city that low-income housing would go in this building that was being built, but now they're being told that it'll be a homeless shelter for families. So they've been out there every day trying to stop the construction of this shelter.
So we're here to bring awareness because a lot of people who live in this community do not even know that there's a homeless shelter coming here.
Yeah, protesters telling us they just feel blindsided by the city's decision to move forward with the shelter, especially since they said they were told it was going to be about affordable housing, which they say they desperately need in this neighborhood. But now, apparently, it'll be transitional housing for homeless families, about 80 families or so. And they said, no. That's not what you told us was going to be built here.
We don't want it. We're taxpayers. We want to keep our community safe.
Our community is not going to be safe. We have children. We don't know what type of people that they're going to put into that shelter.
Yeah, so these crowds that have been out there 24/7, a vigil, trying to stop these construction workers from doing their job. 5:52, the selection of the new pope. It starts on Wednesday, but the focus yesterday was on President Trump and this AI-generated image he posted on social media of him dressed as the Pope. So Timothy Cardinal Dolan, who is, of course, the Archbishop of New York, he's in Rome for the conclave. He was asked about this. Are you upset that President Trump posted a picture of him that clearly someone made? He reposted, are you upset that the picture was posted of Donald Trump as Pope?
He didn't have anything to do with that. I
Are you offended by that?
Well, it wasn't good.
Yeah, so I guess he didn't love it. I don't know if you saw, they also had this picture that I found entertaining anyway. There was orange smoke coming from the Sistine Chapel. So the simple Sistine Chapel, which is not simple, but the Archbishop Cardinal Dolan has been leading services from this simple one-room church that's founded by Mexican refugees. It's right outside Vatican City. It's called Our Lady of Guadalupe, and he's been holding services there as he gets ready for this conclave. So he made himself available to the press a little bit yesterday.
Look, I hope there's a pope that is like Jesus, because the pope is supposed to be the vicar of Christ on earth.
Now, of course, he was asked, do you think you have a shot at becoming the next leader of the Catholic Church? And he just laughed that off. He said, no, he doesn't think he's going to be the next pope. And there were some New Yorkers, and have been New Yorkers in the Vatican City since Pope Francis passed away. They, too, say they think Dolan would be a great pope. I think he'd be fantastic, but they say an American doesn't stand a shot.
I respect him very much. I was coming from New York, but I have a feeling it's not going to happen. No. First of all, we've never had an American pope. It'll be very difficult.
Yeah, I think it would be shocking if that was the result of the conclave, which again begins on Wednesday. More than 30,000 bicyclists taken to the streets of the city yesterday for the 47th annual 5-borough bike tour.
The 40-mile course began in Lower Manhattan, looped through the Bronx, back to Manhattan, and then to Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. The event, co-sponsored by Bike New York, attracts riders from around the world, including this woman who was visiting from Montreal with her family.
It's make 10 years that we're doing the one in Montreal, the bike tour Montreal, and this year for our 20th anniversary of wedding, we decided to came here and family to do something different and try the one at the New York City.
Money raised from the event helps to fund free bike safety programs. I'm Larry Kofsky, NBC News Radio.
Boy, it's a lot of fun, by the way. If you've never done it, it's definitely a bucket list item thing to do. The NYPD, meanwhile, cracking down on cyclists who run red lights or refuse to stop at stop signs. Normally, bikers get a traffic ticket for these type of low offenses, but now they'll receive a criminal summons that would require them to show up in court in person. The policy change is part of the NYPD's rollout of its new quality of life division.
I can understand wanting to step up enforcement, but bringing it up to a criminal violation seems excessive and unfair given the relative danger of a bike as compared to a car.
Yeah, so cycling advocates say the policy would unfairly target cyclists, but if you're somebody who's walked the streets sometimes, you feel like you're dodging these guys who are not paying attention to traffic lights. Since 2014, crashes involving people on bikes and pedestrians have killed 11 New Yorkers, while drivers in New York have killed over 1,000 pedestrians during that same time, and that's why you have some cyclists who say this is just not the right thing to do.
The cost of transportation is so expensive. Biking is sometimes the only option that people have, and to criminalize that for running a red light when you wouldn't do that for somebody running a red light in a car is absolutely offensive.
Yeah, but when you talk to people who are just trying to walk their dog down the street, like this guy, Fernando Guamares, says he often walks his dog down a street in the West Village and he worries often that he's going to be hit by a bike when he crosses the street. People not paying attention to a red light or a stop sign.
A lot of times with these bikers, there's a lot of accidents that happen because they kind of just go crazy through the red lights.
Yeah, I say that all the time. So this enforcement is going to begin apparently as soon as this week. And we're celebrating Cinco de Mayo today, the win for the Mexican army, of course, over the French at the Battle of Puebla. Goes back to 1862.
That Bar Academy says Americans will collectively drink 126 liters of tequila today, mostly in margaritas. We'll also eat about 87 million pounds of guacamole and 4 or 5 tacos each. All in good fun, as long as you designate a driver, because law enforcement will have DUI checkpoints and saturation patrols looking for DUIs. Make sure it's not you. I'm Bree Tennis.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?